It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to. Lots to talk about. Interesting day on Sunday on Meet the Depressed. Elise Stefanik, the representative from New York, vying to be vice president, went and steamrolled Kirsten Welker. And, I got to question why you even have someone like Stefanik on a program when you know there's nothing of any value coming out of her mouth other than the company line. But she got some attention. She called the people who are in prison for the crimes on January 6th hostages. And look, I've said for a very long time that nobody plays the victim card quite like a conservative. No one plays the victim like Republicans. And she did. She did it really well. They're against us, the poor hostages, and the treatment of our hostages, and the weaponization of government. And if there was a Clinton or a Biden, it would be fine. But no, oh, poor, woe is me. And Miss Welker just she tried some half-handed, Hunter Biden. No, you shut that down. And the weird thing is that Elise Stefanik on January 6th, 2021 said, quote, "This has been a truly tragic day for America. We all join together in fully condemning the dangerous violence and destruction that occurred today in our nation's capital. Americans will always have the freedom of speech and the constitutional right to protest, but violence in any form is absolutely unacceptable," she said. "It is anti-American," she said, "and must be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law." Only now calling those people who broke the law hostages, victims. It's an interesting about face, don't you think? The rewrite has been really very interesting. One that even Netflix would probably turn down. I mean, Mitch McConnell said that, on the day after, that there's no question, none, that President Trump is practically and morally responsible for provoking the events of the day. A year later, on the anniversary, he comes out and says, it's been stunning to see some in Washington, some Washington Democrats try to exploit this anniversary to advance partisan policy goals. No. You can't rewrite what happened on January 6th, 2021. You can't do it. You don't get this. And this is why our mainstream corporate-controlled media, the Kristen Wilkers of the world, need to spine up. We saw what happened. We witnessed it with our eyes. The rewrite, we are not buying. Here's the thing that's interesting to me. And I was thinking about this over the last couple of days, and I remember thinking this on January 6th and 7th. As I watched the tough guys, I watched the Josh Hawleys. As he walked in, he was his fist raised, cower and run. When the attackers, the insurrectionists, the criminals, as they invaded our capital. The Markwayne Mullins, tough guy, as they hid. The Scott Perrys, the Jim Jordans, the Marco Rubios, the the forehead guy, Matt Gaetz. After all, those were their people. And it's curious to me, now that it's no longer the day that we were told it was, a horribly tragic day, a violent day. It's no longer that. Marco Rubio said there's nothing patriotic about what's occurring on the Capitol Hill. This is a third world style anti-American anarchy. Steve Scalise said the Capitol Police saved his life. Attacks on law enforcement officers, he said, trying to do their jobs are never acceptable. Period. You go down the list of all these people who, on the day, Kevin McCarthy, blaming Trump. I mean, down the list of people condemning the violence. Only 2 days, weeks, months later, no, it wasn't that bad. Oh, no, it was a patriotic day. Look, they're walking between the ropes. Oh, it was a family day. It was a day like any other. And the thing that sticks with me, because if it were truly a day like any other, and first, I got a question. If it truly were a day like any other, I don't know of any other day where people are defecating on the floor and wiping on the walls. I don't know where there's blood all over the floor and all over, statues. And I don't know when windows are broken all the time and the place is destroyed. I'm sorry. I don't know what most people's living conditions are, but, I don't think you defecate on the floor and rub it in the carpet. I'm just throwing this out here. Maybe the folks who broke into our Capitol and destroyed our Capitol, maybe that's how they live at home. I don't know. But that's not what I want to believe. But here's the thing that gets me. If what we're being told now is true, if it were a patriotic day, if it were a family day, if it were a day like any other, where were the Republicans in the Capitol? Why were they cowering? Why were they holding up? Why were they hiding? Why weren't they out there amongst their people? Why weren't they out there taking photos? I mean, politicians love a good photo op. Why weren't they out there taking selfies? Hey, look at us. We're defecating on the floor together. Where were they? And the thing that gets me is the thing that we're not talking about is, for me, January 6th is kind of an important thing in that my entire life, politically, the thing that I've always believed America was exceptional for was the fact that we could have an ideological transfer of power and that we didn't have to kill each other, that we could disagree. We could have differing viewpoints and our politics would stop at violence. We didn't have to beat each other. We didn't have to have insurrections. We didn't have coups. I remember in school learning about the election of 1800, which is why John Adams was one of my favorite presidents. Not because he did a lot of good things, did some really bad stuff, in my view. But the fact that he left, he lost what was a bitterly contested and tumultuous political battle between Adams and Thomas Jefferson. But when he lost, he left. Angry, mad, like a thief in the night, often, but he left. And this marked the first time in the history of recorded history a ideological transfer of power without bloodshed. That makes us exceptional. That's what made us exceptional. The fact that we showed the world that it's possible to have a political system that we we can transfer power without killing each other. That's a pretty remarkable thing, and that has been broken. 2021, that has been broken. 220 years. And it's been broken. Because we have a former president who would not admit that he lost, and was willing to tear down this country. It's remarkable to me. And this moment will go down in history as one of the most shameful, as one of the most disgraceful moments in our history. But to have a Republican Party that has attempted to rewrite what we all witnessed, that's really the most disgraceful of all. To have one person like Donald Trump, who, clearly, you know who he is. But to have an entire Republican Party, someone like Elise Stefanik, who's going to, well, we know why. It's all about power. It's all about control and power. It's sad. I want to hear your thoughts. Where were you on January 6th? And was it a patriotic day? Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Gonna take a quick break. Right back.
The best way to strengthen America's economy? How about investing in America's fastest growing industry? Clean energy. It means millions of jobs that pay well and can't be outsourced. And lower utility costs for families. Congress, let's get it done.
From the steel mills of Pennsylvania, to the auto factories of Michigan, to the modern makers movement, manufacturing makes our nation great. I'm Scott Paul, President of the Alliance for American Manufacturing. We bring business and labor together to advocate for policies that everyone can agree on. Together, we can strengthen manufacturing and create good-paying American jobs. Help us keep it made in America.
I took 2 years of electric in high school, and I was the only girl in the class there. Here, I'm the only girl as far as installers go. I'm a single mom, too. I joined the union because it gave me options for health care and life insurance so that I know my son's taken care of. I like what I do. This is the best job I've ever had. You think solar panels is more like California. You wouldn't think Appalachia would have any. It would be smart if the government would invest more in clean energy resources.
So the thing that gets me is, we sat and we watched the January 6th committee put on what was a thorough presentation of the facts. And Republicans chose not to participate, not to question any of the evidence that was presented. They chose not to participate because they knew they were wrong. They knew there was no defense. They knew there was nothing they could add that would make it look any less bad. They did. They knew that there was nothing in it for them. So what they chose to do, quite frankly, is they chose to allow the Democrats and Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney to go forth and do a thorough job of basically skewering Donald Trump and laying out the facts. Now understand, what we saw was what happens when people are put in a position where they have to put their hand on that book, the Bible that they swear that they love, that they say they love so much, where they have to put their hand on that book and swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help them their God. But really, more importantly, so help them, if you get caught lying, you're going to jail for perjury. It's interesting that when Republicans hold their little kangaroo hearings like they did, in my neighborhood after January 6th, it wasn't under oath because, well, we don't want to get in trouble. This stuff under oath, and it's interesting what Republicans had to say under oath. And that's why I found it interesting when Benny Thompson, and this again is one of these interesting moments when you look at the reality of where we are. Mississippi Congressman Benny Thompson, the chair of the January 6th committee, in the final public hearing day, he highlighted some key evidence in a video, and I want to play that video because I think the video is really important. So here is the chairman's video right here. Here's Benny Thompson.
Without objection, I include in the record a video presentation of some of the key evidence our investigation has uncovered.
There were officers on the ground. They were bleeding. They were throwing up. I mean, I saw friends with blood all over their faces. I was slipping in people's blood.
As I was swarmed by a violent mob, they ripped off my badge. They grabbed and stripped me of my radio. They seized ammunition that was secured to my body. They began to beat me with their fists and with what felt like hard metal objects.
The key thing to do is to claim victory. No, we won. Sorry, over, we won. Yeah. You're wrong.
Right out of the box on election night, the president claimed that there was major fraud underway. I mean, this happened, as far as I could tell, before there was actually any potential of looking at evidence.
I didn't think what was happening was necessarily honest or professional at that point in time. So that led to me stepping away.
Generally discussed on that topic was whether the fraud, maladministration, abuse, or irregularities, if aggregated and read most favorably to the campaign, would that be outcome determinative? And I think everyone's assessment in the room, at least amongst the staff, Mark Short, myself, and Greg Jacob, was that it was not sufficient to be outcome determinative.
I told him that I did believe, yes, that once those legal processes were run, if fraud had not been established, that had affected the outcome of the election, then unfortunately I believed that what had to be done was concede the outcome.
What were the chances of President Trump winning the election?
After that point?
Yes.
None.
So what are we going to do here, folks? I only need 11,000 votes. Fellas, I need 11,000 votes. Give me a break.
The numbers are the numbers. The numbers don't lie. We had many allegations, and we investigated every single one of them.
Did one of them make a comment that they didn't have evidence, but they had a lot of theories?
That was Mr. Giuliani.
And what exactly did he say, and how that come up?
My recollection, he said, we've got lots of theories, we just don't have the evidence. You're asking me to do something that's never been done in history, the history of the United States, and I'm going to put my state through that without sufficient proof?
It's a tape earlier in the day of Ruby Freeman and Shay Freeman Morris and one other gentleman quite obviously surreptitiously passing around USB ports as if they're vials of heroin or cocaine.
In one of the videos we just watched, Mr. Giuliani accused you and your mother of passing some sort of USB drive to each other. What was your mom actually handing you on that video?
A ginger mint.
Do you know how it feels to have the President of the United States to target you? The President of the United States is supposed to represent every American, not to target one.
I made it clear I did not agree with the idea of saying the election was stolen and putting out this stuff, which I told the president was bullshit.
He wanted to talk about that he thought the election had been stolen or was corrupt, and that there was widespread fraud. And I had told him that our reviews had not shown that to be the case.
And I said something to the effect of, sir, we've done dozens of investigations, hundreds of interviews. The major allegations are not supported by the evidence developed.
Well, my first thought was, this is a terrible idea. Jeff Clark cannot be installed as acting Attorney General of the United States.
You ultimately told us that you described this meeting as not this meeting, the Georgia letter that was proposed as an effing murder-suicide pact. Do you remember using the term murder-suicide pact?
Yes.
Was it your impression that the Vice President had directly conveyed his position on these issues to the President, not just to the world through a Dear Colleague letter, but directly to President Trump?
Many times. My view was that the Vice President didn't have the legal authority to do anything except what he did.
And I said, hold on a second, I want to understand what you're saying. You're saying that you believe the Vice President, acting as President of the Senate, can be the sole decision maker as to, under your theory, who becomes the next President of the United States? And you said yes. And I said, are you out of your effing mind?
The president was, all the attention was on what Mike would do or what Mike wouldn't do.
There's a telephone conversation between the president and the vice president, is that correct?
Yes.
The conversation was pretty heated.
Apologize for being impolite, but do you remember what she said her father called him?
The P word. It was clear that it was escalating and escalating quickly. So then when that tweet, the Mike Pence tweet, was sent out, I remember us saying that was the last thing that needed to be tweeted at that moment. It felt like he was pouring gasoline on the fire by tweeting that.
They've gained access to the second floor, and I've got public about 5 feet from me down here below.
Okay, copy. They are on the second floor, moving in now. We may want to consider getting out and leaving now. Copy.
The members of the VPT tel at this time were starting to fear for their own lives. There were calls to say goodbye to family members, so on and so forth.
Approximately 40 feet. That's all there was. 40 feet between the vice president and the mob.
Donald Trump and his allies and supporters are a clear and present danger to American democracy.
We got derogatory information from OSINT suggesting that some very, very violent individuals were organizing to come to D.C.
As Mr. Giuliani and I were walking to his vehicles that evening, he looked at me and said something to the effect of, Cass, are you excited for the 6th? It's going to be a great day. I remember looking at him and saying, Rudy, could you explain what's happening on the 6th? He had responded something to the effect of, we're going to the Capitol. It's going to be great. The president's going to be there. He's going to look powerful.
He personally asked for us to come to D.C. that day. And I thought, for everything he's done for us, if this is the only thing he's going to ask of me, I'll do it.
Well, basically, the president, got everybody riled up, told everybody to head on down. So we basically were just following what he said.
Within 15 minutes of leaving the stage, President Trump knew that the Capitol was besieged and under attack.
So are you aware of any phone call by the President of the United States to the Secretary of Defense that day?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Are you aware of any phone call by the President of the United States to the Attorney General of the United States that day?
No.
Are you aware of any phone call by the President of the United States to the Secretary of Homeland Security that day?
I'm not aware of that, no.
Did you ever hear the the president
No.
ask for the National
No.
Guard? Did you ever hear the president ask for law enforcement response?
No.
You got an assault going on the Capitol of the United States of America. And there's nothing. No call, nothing, zero.
I remember Pat saying something to the effect of, Mark, we need to do something more. They're literally calling for the vice president to be effing hung. And Mark had responded something to the effect of, you heard him, Pat. He thinks Mike deserves it. He doesn't think they're doing anything wrong.
You on the staff did not want people to leave the Capitol.
On the staff?
In the White House.
I can't think of anybody, on that day who didn't want people to get out of the Capitol once particularly once the violence started. No. I mean,
What about the president?
Yeah.
well, she said the staff. So I answered.
No, I said in the White House.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I thought you said who else on the staff. I can't reveal communications, but obviously I think, yeah.
I said, good, John. Now I'm going to give you the best free legal advice you're ever getting in your life. Get a great effing criminal defense lawyer. You're going to need it.
General Flynn, do you believe in the peaceful transition of power in the United States of America?
Yes, sir. Another officer unconscious. The terrorist. What terrorist?
I don't want to say the election's over. I just want to say Congress has certified the results without saying the election's over, okay?
Absolutely. Absolutely amazing. I got to tell you, just amazing stuff. I want to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. For folks watching us on Free Speech TV, we'll see you back here tomorrow. Everyone else listening on the radio, we're going to take a quick break. Back after this. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show.